Good morning,
Fantastic.
everyone. We are live. Welcome to the Rebel Roundtable. Happy Friday. And I am so lucky. I say that every week because I am very lucky to talk to really cool people. And today I get to talk to Ryan Fenton. And Ryan is the founder of CaseFlow PPC, and he's an ad agency for law firms. But what got me really excited to talk to him was he had posted a couple months ago about AI and chat GPT and the ads that are going on there. So that's lawyers all think PPC and SEO and all that's a scam. And so I was like, let's talk about some really cool things that are going on and how you actually work with firms. So thank you for being here, Ryan.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be on. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. You have some background, what your firm does, and how you got there, kind of.
Yeah, 100%. So my background is obviously marketing, hence why I've got no hair left on my head, dealing with all the clients and all the fun stuff. And yeah, so I did that for 10 years. Agency side, eventually kind of worked for myself and was doing everything for everybody, plumbers, like e-commerce, roofers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I decided to niche down into family law,
Mhm.
specifically because I felt like personal injury is oversaturated. Criminal defense quite saturated in terms of marketing agencies, SEO, and things like that. I thought there's not really many agencies out there specifically serving family law, and I felt like there was a gap to fill.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to come in and say, "Hey, I'll bring you more leads and I'll bring you more, more this and more that," because not all the times, family lawyers don't want more. They might be backloaded with cases and things like that. So instead, I work with the firm to say, what are the cases you actually, want to work on, enjoy working on, where we get the champagne pop in and, you have a really good time. And we work back from that. So it could be, well, we really like high asset divorce cases. Okay, well, that's a starting point. It might be we really like, child custody with substantial retainers. That's another starting point. We just want clients who are ready to retain, So
Yeah.
all of these factors come into the play, and it's like, okay, now we have a starting point. Let's work back. How do we achieve that by working back? What campaigns, what assets do we put in place to get that? So, yeah, for me, it's specifically Google Ads for family law firms, and that's what CaseFlow does really.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. And so again, Google Ads, all lawyers think that that's really expensive and scammy usually. And I like to dispel those myths because when you have a good professional working on it, it's a huge difference than you have like a fly by night that's not really tracking things, not helping you with the actual marketing and that kind of thing. So what is the process that firms go through when they start looking at Google Ads and how to get clients into that funnel?
Yeah, really good question. To be honest, I think a lot of the times it gets lumped in with SEO and almost websites because it's an easier conversation to have. Like you need a new website, whereas if you say, you need a new PPC strategy, all of a sudden, like, what's PPC?
Deer in the headlights.
What exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's almost as if SEO and websites have become the buzzword rather
Yeah.
than everything else attached to marketing. So
Mhm.
typically it's usually thrown together. There's a campaign up and running. It could be something like $50, it could be $25 per day, which obviously for this kind of industry is quite on the low side. So typically I go in, I do an audit, I typically see what is the current situation, the current strategy, if there is one. And then I work with the firm to understand, okay, pretty much just as I said, what are the cases you actually want to work on?
Mhm.
And then we'll work our way back from that. And then I put in obviously practice area specific landing pages. So we don't just have one website. It's actually, high asset divorce. It's actually child custody. It could be collaborative divorce. It could be so many different pages that specifically talk to one specific demographic. So rather than where you see many websites for firms, just talk about, hey, we do this and we do that, and we can get,
Mhm.
it's like the person has to do a lot of the digging. Instead, if they're looking for an uncontested divorce attorney near them, we have a specific page that talks all about that, the pain points, the FAQs, and resonates with them to say, hey, we know what you're currently going through, and we're the family law firm for you. And then on the back end of that, we make sure we track everything up with KPI and
Yeah.
conversion tracking, so we know what keywords, what campaigns, what ads are actually bringing in the case leads. So that's kind of how it works.
Okay. So let's switch a little bit to talk about because AI is changing a lot of things. And there's a lot of, I get calls all the time now with chat GPT told me to talk to you kind of thing. So what are you seeing then? How is that impacting law firms and family law firms and other law firms? And how can you work with that too?
Yeah, it's quite new in the fact that recently ChatGPT ads has come on the horizon. And I know OpenAI wanted to monetize that platform. I think they had something along the lines of 700 million weekly users active on the platform. It
Yeah.
makes sense to monetize that, and start actually getting ad revenue from that. So they're testing the waters. I mean, it's only really been out in the past 6 months, I would like to say. I know law is strictly forbidden at the moment as it stands. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think maybe 2027, potentially at the end of 2027, 2028, we're going to see that open up to more and more industries. And I personally think legal will be one of them. So at the
Mhm.
moment, it's very safe, it's very assuring, but you've got to think about how we naturally use AI and, ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini in our day-to-day business. At one time a day, if you wanted a pizza, you would have gone onto Google and like best pizza place near me.
Yeah.
But now you go maybe to ChatGPT and it's a conversation that's having. It's like, okay, I'm kind of fancying like a margarita or a pepperoni or whatever. What's your favorite pizza, Jen?
Pepperoni. That's the only
Pepperoni,
pizza.
right? Yeah, okay.
Pepperoni is the only pizza.
That's all right. So I'm a pineapple guy, so a lot of people probably hate exactly, I get a lot of hate for that. But
Yep.
so yeah, it might be a case of I'm fancying a pizza. I don't know what places are around me, and it's a conversation that you're having with ChatGPT. And to your point, in terms of actually legal, if someone's going through a divorce, if someone's considering child
Yep.
custody and things like that, there's a whole conversation that is happening that actually eventually leads on to, okay, now you're in a position to look for,
Right. Right.
representation. Here, yeah, exactly. Here's some family law firms and things like that.
So I have had firms say that they've, clients found them on ChatGPT, but is it because they had Google, they have good search? Is that what like Chat and Claude is going out there and doing, is searching is who has good content already out there? And that's what it's pulling from? Or how are people getting into the chat and, AI ecosystems?
At the moment, up until now, it has been on reputation. It's been
Okay.
on, I believe, domain authority is a little bit influenced. So the longer you've had your website address, the more
Yep.
prestigious you are on Google. But it's not about that. It's also Google, and this is more for Gemini, I suppose you could say, likes to see message match. So if somebody's saying, okay, what are the best family law firms for me? I'm going through a divorce, whatever it might be. It's going to say, well, based on this criteria, these are the three top firms around you, and it's going to pull blog articles, it's going to pull information, it's going to pull certain parts from their website that's related to what that person is searching for on a Gemini, on a Chat GPT. So it's more about that SEO organic thing that has come into play and has
Yeah.
influenced that early kind of thing of Chat GPT. But now, obviously, with ads layering on top of that, people can start to take more advantage of it. Obviously, not yet in legal, like I said, I believe it's coming, so bear with. But as well, you've got to think when you are using Google Ads, you're actually sending direct traffic
Yeah.
from Google itself to the website. So Google's going to see, wow, this website's getting a lot of traffic. It's going to give a big thumbs up to Google, say these guys are reputable. Jen Lee's family law firm, for example, is the best around. So we want to make sure that they are getting a lot of users and a lot of traffic because what they say is legit. So that influences into ChatGPT and Claude and
And all the,
Gemini as well. Yeah,
you used to like
exactly.
qualify it these days and have all the things listed
I
because
have to
everyone's
say, yeah.
using all of them. But it's interesting because it's funny that you say, legal not yet, because legal is always 20 years behind what everyone else is
Yeah,
doing because just our industry is very
it's tough.
overly cautious and newfangled things like the internet are still new to us. Um,
Absolutely.
so how are Google ads like fitting into this AI first world? Is it because you're seeing more traffic to the sites that's what's helping, or do you see a longer term impact that Google ads will have?
I don't necessarily think there's going to be a longer term impact in terms of Google Ads. You've got to think that, Google Ads is the way that Google make a lot of their revenue. I think it's something in the region of 1 to 2% per click. Sorry, 1 to 2% commission they get per click on
Mm.
every advertiser in the whole world. So it's a big money maker for them. And obviously, a lot of different platforms like Meta and things like that. That's how they make their money as well, not pay per click, but other demographic based targeting. So I don't see Google Ads going away anytime soon. I think it will evolve in some capacity. To what degree, I'm not sure, but as a marketer, you have to move with the times. I mean, what happened 20 years ago in print and things like that, maybe you would write a message by pigeon and throw that out the window. Who knows? That could have been the way to kind of get your
It
messaging
would
out
have
there.
taken a really long time to schedule this live stream if I had to send you a pigeon to.
It's still coming. Yeah, it's still arriving. But no, I genuinely think you move with the times. What was good at radio and then obviously
Yep.
TV ads, and now obviously we're moving into more online digital presence and things like that. So now we're in the world of AI, and it's really unknown. It's very exciting because it's only just been launched. So who knows what is on the horizon? But all I can really say is that any good marketer will understand the platforms, move with the times, and adapt, and hopefully, see what happens.
I think a lot of that, what we're speculating a lot of times these days, we're like trying to think ahead, like 2 or 3 steps ahead of what's going to happen. And I was thinking the other day, we were talking about Gemini and all the different ownership of these things and who owns what and who's connected to what. I was working in Notebook LM on something yesterday. And so Google, and I was thinking, are they going to make it so that people have to use like certain platforms to advertise? Like if you're a law firm, you have to be on Gemini, like a client of, you know what I mean? Like, are they going to make
Yeah.
it proprietary or things like that when they start doing ads? So it was an interesting thought.
Interesting thought. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I think at the moment it seems like they're all trying to keep neck and neck. It's like
Yeah.
a horse race, and I think that Chat GPT takes the lead, and then Gemini, and then Claude's right behind. So it's constantly kind of changing and moving. But what I will say to Chat GPT's whatever is that it seems to be the front runner because there's so many users on it. I think
Yep.
people are starting to look for alternatives when they do get a bit frustrated with ChatGPT. But for the most part, ChatGPT has become a little bit of a buzzword in itself of like, oh, what kind of platform are you? Is it ChatGPT?
Yeah.
So then I
Yeah.
think the Geminis of the world have to kind of compete with that. So
Yeah. It's hard when it took off so fast when they came first to market.
yeah,
Like people just jumped into it and it's hard to switch. I use both Chat and Claude regularly, like different things. And I would say it took me a while to adopt to Claude because I was just like, but Chat knows me. Like I've been talking to it for 4 years now, so it knows me.
sure.
It's harder to
And
switch.
do you, just to ask as well, do you use it conversationally to try and find information for you? So, for example, like I said, pepperoni pizzas near Jen,
I
that type
don't
of thing.
like.
You
I
don't? Oh,
don't use
okay.
it. I don't. Mine is a lot of like thought partnering, like trying to get it to brainstorm
Yeah.
with me on content and things like that, and creating things. But I have seen a lot of people that use it as a Google search basically these
Yeah.
days, and so it's very interesting to try to figure out how our clients, and I think lawyers miss out on thinking about how their clients think, and that's usually what
Yeah.
marketing and branding starts with is how do your clients think. I think lawyers are probably more like me and not using it as a Google search. And we should probably start thinking like, how are our clients using this
It's a
to
really good,
find us?
yeah, really good point. And also, you have to think longevity reasons. That may mean a better fit at the end of the day, because if they're naturally having this back and forth with an AI, with an
Yep.
LLM, then when they are ready to seek out a law firm, they're in a better position to say, right now, I know what is expected. Maybe they understand somewhat of the fee structure and things in place, what their other options are. So, in my opinion, it kind of skips out that consultation. If
Yeah.
an attorney or a paralegal is taking that consult and they're saying, what about this and what about that? And, it's going through 20 minutes of that. Whereas if they've already had that conversation with ChatGPT or Gemini, they come to the consult more prepared and they're in a better position to actually go forward. That's kind of what I think anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm half and half because I'm a skeptic in general of I love things and then I try to figure out like, okay, how is this going to break and what's going to go wrong with it? And I think a lot of lawyers are frustrated these days by clients who come in and have gone through like an
Yeah.
AI platform and bring in totally wrong information or they send really long
Mm.
emails now. And so I think if smart lawyers would be feeding good content into the ecosystem out there so that the client is pulling down their educational materials and reading it and not like a summary of other people's content or wrong
Mm.
content, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
that involves thinking forward and like how are we going to use AI in the future, and lawyers aren't quite there yet
Still
sometimes.
early days, but yeah.
Yes.
And this is
Yeah.
why, again, I think there's a lot of opportunity for Google
Yeah.
search still, because at the end of the day, people will search, and we see it every month. People are still searching, divorce lawyer near me, divorce attorney near me. A lot of the times, they're not in a position to go forward with it because funds typically seems to be a
Yeah.
big thing. They get so far, and it's either they're looking for free consults, or they say, "Well, I'm not really in a ready position yet, but I'm thinking about it." Da, 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 da. So, you know typically what we find is that if you start putting qualifying questions in place, then we build a bit of a
Yeah.
story. We understand what process they are, where they are at the stage of actually whatever they're looking for. Custody, support, divorce, prenup, whatever it might be. We build a bit of a story, and then we can hand that over and say, actually, these guys are worth calling because they qualify, they tick all the criteria. These guys don't quite mix it, but you may want to reach out anyway. So rather than just getting those calls like, oh, we read on ChatGPT that you can help us with that, we skip all that out because it's like, check in with these guys. There might be something there. So
Well,
yeah.
that's where like high quality leads versus volume. I'm a big fan of high
Yeah,
quality leads versus volume because there's a lot of firms like, oh, I just want 100 phone calls today. I'm like, you don't want 100 phone calls today because 99 of them are a disaster that you don't want to deal with.
exactly.
And then you triggered my free consultations because I'm a big fan of not doing free consults and putting out enough educational content so that clients don't need the free consult and they pay for the consult. But it's
I
really
love
funny
that.
because a lot of marketers and a lot of SEO and Google ads won't work with me or my firms because they want to advertise that that's what they want to use as the trigger for everything is a free consult. And I'm like,
No,
no.
that's terrible. That's really, I mean, I must say that's really bad practices, and I like to try and, with CaseFlow, we do things a little bit differently. We really, it's understanding not what the attorney want. Obviously, we want to brand the attorney in such a way in the firm, of course, but it's about what the client wants to understand. Where we have to kind of have that resonate with the client and what they're currently going through. So, it's just like life changing, especially family law, life
Yeah.
changing emotional events. So to cut that barrier down and actually write messaging that resonates and hits them at home, it's like all of a sudden it's not just the law officers of generally established in 1995 or whatever it is. It's actually, what, we
Yeah.
understand what you're going through, and we can be in your corner every
Yeah.
step of the way, and things like that, more human element rather than just shouting out ad headlines. So I agree. I don't like free consults. If anything, I think it is a really good idea to get the client to have a bit of skin in the game
Yep.
early on, because then it shows commitment. But it's not something we typically look to advertise where possible. We focus on more of that emotional side. So
Yeah.
yeah.
When lawyers or law firms come to you, what do you see as like their biggest blind spot? What are they totally missing about Google ads and what they should be looking at?
I think you've hit the nail on the head before with what you said. Typically, a lot of it does come down to, well, we're already getting leads. Okay,
Mhm.
but let me take a look and see what leads you're getting. And then when we look under the hood, we see that actually 80% is junk. It's spam, it's people that aren't in a really good position to go forward, but top level surface, it's like we're getting loads of leads, it's great. And it's not actually that 20% of that might be somewhat decent. And that's where I want to identify. So we turn away the 80%, and then we identify the 20%, and then just turn the volume up on that. Because as soon as we understand this is what we want, we go after those more. So really, it's just been, when I get into an account, what I'll see is that a campaign has been thrown together. It has some budget. There's a lot of cross contamination in terms of the bidding against themselves. Tracking is all over the place, sometimes non-existent. It's quite a mess. So it's quite eye-opening as well, to be honest. But then again, I'm a little bit of a geek, so it's nice to go in and make a difference and get all the
Mhm.
campaigns set up correctly, get all the landing pages and the assets working correctly, because then I feel like we're going after the right people. We're going after that 20% of high quality leads that you mentioned,
Yeah.
rather than the volume of people that are just not ready to retain. So
Yeah, it's interesting because I think, again, the busy versus productive type mindset, we're all really slammed these days and trying to, it sounds scary to take 20% out of the 100%, but then when you start realizing that your time is better spent on the ones that are actually going to retain and pay you, that
absolutely.
it's a much calmer and less chaotic law firm. Do you find that content creation is still important for law firms through these landing pages and through like follow up and drip campaigns and things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely do. I'm a big believer in SEO as well. If anything, it kind of works hand in hand with what we do in terms
Yeah.
of Google Ads, because we sometimes a person might not be ready to go ahead. So it might need a little bit more of a before campaign where it's top of funnel, it's informational based. People wanting to know what the process typically looks like in terms of going through a divorce, going through child custody. So we may send them to a blog article, warm them up, and bid on keywords that are very
Mhm.
cheaper, if you will, to
Yeah.
capture them at a very early stage where they're just researching online. Of course, this is where AI comes in because now they've moved over to AI to do a lot of that research. So we are still seeing a lot of quality come through that, but it's a lower drip campaign. It takes more months than it does sort of days or weeks. Um, and I've forgotten the question because I
It's
was got
okay. No,
remind. I'm getting old.
no, it's
Remind
just
me.
it's content, like creating content and
Yeah,
creating
it's really valuable.
and not AI slop content. Because I
Oh
see a lot of
yeah,
people creating a whole bunch of just
it's so easy
copy
to
paste
do.
nonsense that's
Yeah. But
annoying.
what's nice about legal though is that you have to be very careful about what you say. So you can't just have ChatGPT write it and then post it. If you do, then
Yeah.
that's really risky because you're putting out information that could be very incorrect. So as far as I'm aware, legal, they have certain requirements that they have to go through before it actually goes to post. So that is good because, and it's not just AI slop, as you say, just being posted, but there is a big, what's the word? If now more than any, a big opportunity for organic, fresh content because of the
Yep.
AI slop. The
Yep.
amount of posts I see on different social media channels, and you can clearly see it's been written by AI. And I think now there's a real art form in terms of actually not using AI, being original in what you're posting and what you're saying. And I think it does stand out now. So
I
take
think
that
so
as you will.
too. And I think your people are still using AI to create the original type stuff. They're just using it as a tool and not as
Mm,
the actual creation of like the final draft. That's what I
yeah,
use it for a lot. It's just like,
that's good.
okay, let me think about this and
Yeah,
figure out what I want to say. So,
that's smart. Yeah.
but yes, there's a lot of it. And do you find that people are trying to replace your because everyone talks about replacing lawyers with AI and replacing whoever. Are people trying to replace like Google Ads managers with their own agent at this point?
I think there's always going to be a case for people trying to do that, but what I say is that I am very transparent in the way that I work and that we
Mhm.
work. It's very communication heavy, and I don't know how much of I think some people want to have that back and forth. Other
Yeah.
people like to be left alone. I'm of the case of, I send over video reports, I send over 5 minute drive-by of videos and things like that. I'm constantly in people's inbox saying, "Hey, we changed this bidding strategy. We added this new campaign. We did this with this keyword." And I almost like to be overly annoying and communicative. Communicate? That's not even a word, but I like to communicate a lot so that it's almost like I'm in house, I'm in the
Yeah.
firm, and they can kind of just ask me a question.
Yeah.
And I think it's about reading and understanding that data. And I don't know if you get that with an AI because it's not just Google. It could
Right.
be that, well, we're in a really slow season. And the way that Google works, it's all about that Google Ads ecosystem. But there's just so much more that happens outside of that. The world, economics, obviously a few years ago we had, the pandemic and things like
Yeah.
that. Google doesn't understand that. It doesn't account for that. And I don't know if AI does either. So I think it's always going to need that human element. And that is with marketing in general,
Yeah.
SEO, PPC, whatever it might be.
I agree. And I also think that all AI does is automates the things that don't need people involved and it leaves the people to do the people work, which is what we
Yeah,
should be doing. So
exactly.
it's not really replacing
Exactly.
things. So yeah. But
Cool.
I'm a rebel who likes to just completely go against what everyone else is saying. It's fun.
That's true.
So to wrap up, because I do try to keep these less than 30 minutes, where can people find you? Website,
Yep.
LinkedIn, where are you at?
Yep. So you can find me. I'm just Ryan Fenton on LinkedIn, and the website is www.caseflowppc.com. And like I said, we only work with US family law firms, so we don't do any criminal, PI, anything like that. It's just family law, and yeah, that's where you can find me. Otherwise, you can if you want to fly out. I am in the UK, so
Where are you at in the UK?
so I'm actually in Derbyshire. I
Okay.
don't know. Let me try and put it this way. If you've heard of Robin Hood, we're probably
Yes.
about half an hour away from Robin Hood and his merry men, Sherwood Forest. So it's just very, very hot at the moment here in the UK with no aircon, and we're all melting. So it depends. The UK may have melted if by the time you get
By
here.
the time
So
I get there. So,
yeah,
well, if I'm ever in the UK, I will let you know. It'd be fun to have a coffee meeting. Um, One last thing we have on the Rebel Roundtable is we do have a Spotify playlist that all the guests add a song to when they're feeling rebellious against society or whatever they want to listen to. Do you have a favorite song that you like to blast?
I do, and I think I mentioned it in the notes actually. It's
Yep.
probably Blink 182, and it's
Okay.
probably Damn It, I think.
Damn
So
it.
yeah, honestly, I started out wanting to learn how to play guitar, and I'm obviously from like born in the 80s, so I had the 90s, and then really that noughties kind of period with Green Day, Offspring, Blink 182
Yep.
kind of came out, so that was my summer, and I just fell in love with Blink. But now obviously getting older, I've kind of moved away from that, a little bit more relaxed in terms of what I listen to, but still, you kind of go I think when you get older, you go back to the
You
music
go
you
back.
listen to. You do. It's
Well,
weird.
as soon
So
as you said that, so I was like, yep, same generation, same like, same
so
experience.
you get
Totally
it.
get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you for your time today. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. No, it's
And
been
to
great.
everyone
Thank you.
else, I will see you next Friday morning on the Rebel Round.